Okay, Maelle, let's take a look at this new set of essays. This is the one about having babies and getting married in your 30s. Here's what you said. Experts, both throughout the developing and developed world, have been analyzing the changes appearing in the young generation's lives. Okay, I don't understand that entirely. So, have been analyzing the changes um, in the way the young generation lives. Maybe that would have made more sense, or have been analyzing the changes appearing in the lives of the young generation. That would work too, okay? So you do need to do some rewording here. I personally believe that having babies or getting married after 30 years old, you don't need a comma, and then you put an S after allows. So allows, because it's one thing that you're talking about, babies, having babies or getting married, it's one thing. So allows people to have more time to study and experience different lifestyles in their young age. This essay will analyze both advantages and disadvantages of this new pattern using examples from an Oxford University study, capital U, and a French governmental study, you don't need a comma, to demonstrate points and prove arguments. Okay, some little things, but on the whole, I liked it. Okay, on the one hand, people in their 20s are studying or traveling most of the time. Okay, word order. So you have to put the verb and then the object and then the when. Okay, so first has to be the verb, then what, and then when. The reasons behind this are twofold. Firstly, young adults are investing their time on studies which will allow them to access better employment positions. Okay, could you have gone into a little more detail about that rather than just going straight into a secondly? Secondly, the young generation looks to travel and discover the world before entering their adult life. For instance, a recent Oxford University study showed that the main concern for young adults before 30 years old was either studying or traveling. Only 7% of the people interviewed plan on having babies or getting married in the next 2 years. Therefore, people creating their own families later is probably for the best as they choose to have these responsibilities when they are ready and more stable. Okay, yeah, so you have this really long piece of information, this statistic, but you never actually did anything with this. You just left it there all on its own. I really don't want you to do that. Anytime you have a main idea, you absolutely must support it. You must back it up with some sort of illustration, some sort of statistics, some sort of explanation, something, okay? And then you can say everything else. Okay. There we go. On the other hand, this new pattern can be harmful for countries' development. This is largely because countries need new generations to boost the economy and join the workforce as the actual number of workers is decreasing consistently. To illustrate this, not it, we can look at the French governmental study which showed that the number of young workers in labor jobs has dropped by 15% between 1990 and 2017. As a result, it should not be forgotten that people in their 20s are the future of our nations, and a big part of the economy depends on them. Okay. Okay, I liked this. I just wanted you to say a couple of more words about it. So what do I mean? I actually mean a couple of things. First of all, you needed to say something about how when people get married and have children later, the population decreases. But if we were having babies like in our 20s, then so you need to make that you can't assume that the examiner understands what you're talking about. Okay, you have to really, really spell it out for people. Okay, so let's see now. So looking at this paragraph again, it's clear to me why having a child would be impossible, or not impossible, but would be difficult, considering the fact that you said that people want to study or travel, but you never really make it clear to us how getting married would somehow not allow people to study or travel. So there's actually very little here about getting married. There's just that one little mention. Um, Here you said they're investing their time on studies which will allow them to access better employment positions, and they like to travel. Okay. So I think what you really needed to do was to say how you couldn't do these things, or it would be extremely, extremely difficult to do these things if you had a child or got married, in your 20s. You really need to lay it out there and make it as obvious as possible. Okay. Now, then here, again, you're close, but you're just not there. All right, so you needed to talk again. There was absolutely nothing related to marriage here. So why is this, why would getting married later somehow affect any of this? So it doesn't really feel entirely on topic, okay? Is this a negative development? You say yes, because we need a new generation. And then you say that the number of young workers has dropped. Okay, so yeah, basically you need to, again, you have to tie it back to the topic and say something like, this is of course a result of the trend that people are having children later in life, which has also had a sizable decrease in the population. Okay, so you need to really, again, just really make it obvious for the examiner, okay? Never assume the examiner knows what you're talking about. Okay, let's see. From the arguments and examples provided, it can be concluded that getting married and having babies after 30 years old is positive for the young population. However, it has an important impact on our countries. I personally strongly believe that young people should enjoy their lives without constraints before starting their own families. You don't need a period here, okay? All right, that was fine. Again, I felt like it was, I felt like you were kind of talking about a different topic, essentially. I felt like there wasn't enough specifically dealing with marriage after 30 and what the benefits of that are, having babies after 30s and after 30 and what the benefits of that are, and then getting married again and having babies in your 30s and what the negatives of that are. Okay, so you didn't really talk about that. So yeah, while you sort of talked about the topic, I don't really feel like you answered the question. All right, I hope that makes sense. But other than that, I enjoyed reading it. You did everything else very well. The coherence and cohesion, the vocabulary, the grammar. So there weren't really many problems. But as far as task achievement, I got to be honest with you and say that, like, I've kind of been talking this through and thinking about your writing, and I don't really feel like you totally answered the topic. Okay. Let's take a look at this rainfall. Great, okay. So, okay. The line, it's not a line chart, it's a line graph, okay? So we call them pie charts, bar charts, line graphs, all right? Okay. So the line graph shows the amount of rain measured in milliliters in England, Scotland, Wales, 2018. The rainfall in England, it's one rainfall, okay? So, and comprised is a really funny word. It's very difficult for a lot of students to use it successfully. So one thing you can do is avoid it. The other thing you can do is try to use it correctly. So one thing that we do is we don't use it in the passive. But I also think that it doesn't really fit here, because what essentially it means is made up of. So you can't really say that the rainfall is made up of approximately 75 and 120. That doesn't quite work. We need a different word here. So the rainfall in England ranged between approximately 75 and 120 ml each month, every month. Oof, okay. You don't mean every month, because that means that every month it was somewhere between that. I think you mean all year. Okay. So the rainfall in England ranged between approximately 75 and 120 ml in 2018. July, September, and December were the wettest months with almost 120 millimeters of rain each month, whilst May was the driest one at 75. Okay, fine. In February, Scotland had the least amount of rain with only 23 ml, while the rain rose dramatically in March, which was the wettest month with just under 120. In April, the country had about 30 ml of rain, and the amount of precipitation climbed until October to reach almost 120 ml and drop again at the end of the year. Okay, April was the driest month for Wales with about 27 ml. The country has seen, that's awkward here, a comma is not enough, okay? So the country has seen an increase of the rainfalls until, no, well, I don't know why we're using now suddenly present perfect while you've been using past the whole time, so don't switch your tenses here. Let me try it again. So April was the driest month for Wales with about 27 ml, full stop. The country saw an increase in rainfall until July, the wettest month, comma, with 120 ml of rain. The precipitation, singular, dropped in August and remained almost steady until October at 47, grew in November and dropped in December with just over 100 ml and almost, okay, respectively. Fine. Overall, throughout the year, the amount of rain fluctuated in the three countries. However, England was the wettest country among, not between, because when you have three, it's among all, and Wales and Scotland had the biggest fluctuations. All right, that's fine. You wrote quite a bit. I don't dislike that. I think it was fine. I thought you selected your information well for the most part. I have certain preferences when I have a chart like this. There are a few things that I like. I like to know where the year began. Okay, I also like to know where the year ended, and then I like to know those key parts. So you did talk about the key parts for sure, and for a couple of times you talked about where the year ended, but there really wasn't much about where these numbers began, because if you look, they pretty much end where they began, right? So you've got Wales here at around 50 and it ends at around 50. You've got Scotland at like 120 and then you can tell it's just above 100. And then, okay, so I think you see my point. So I think that's interesting. It's kind of like telling you the full story when you know the beginning and the end and then the key points in the middle. All right, but it was pretty good overall. I don't know, did it take you an hour to do these both? That's my next concern because this is a rather long-ish task one. Let me see if I can do a word count on here. Can I? Yeah, 198 words. Yeah, which is fine. I mean, if you can do it in 20 minutes, then please, by all means, go ahead and do so. I thought you selected your data well. Okay, so go ahead and correct these, and let's see another set of essays from you. Okay, good luck, and I'll be waiting to see what you write next.